Hey, everybody, this is Dave. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to preface it by saying that we recorded before we'd heard about the death of Denny Lane, and so we were not aware of it during this recording. We also wanted to let you know that we will be recording a Beatles Friends episode in our series focusing on Denny Lane sometime in 2024. So you get to look forward to hearing about Denny's contributions with Wings. So, with all that said, we hope you enjoy going back to 1972 and hearing all about Wings' first university tours and first tours in general. So, thanks for listening. Enjoy.
So we went on the road. Boy, did we go on the road.
Tell us about it.
I mean, well, because the thing is, normally you go on the road, at least you book hotels. Anyone books hotels. But we decided to really just busk the whole thing. So we had a tranny, and we just headed off up the motorway. We had the kids, a couple of dogs, a whole group, all our instruments. Oh, there was a U-Haul following behind with the
The roadies.
the roadies. And we literally turned up at universities and stuff. We turned up at Nottingham University was the first one. And we said, in fact, I didn't say anything. I stayed in the van. Couldn't handle it. One of the lads, Ian Horn actually went in and said, I've got Paul McCartney out in the van. I mean, do you want him on the lunchtime tomorrow? And the students said, piss off, get out of here. Really? And they come out in the van to sort of check. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll have him. So we played that next lunch hour. 50p on the door. Reasonable. It was quite funny because we didn't know that many numbers. We were a very new band. And I think we had something like 11 numbers.
Hello again, and welcome to I've Got a Beatles podcast with Dave and Chris. And today we're going to do one of our episodes in our series Classic Beatles Gigs. And
Yeah.
this is going back all the way to 1972 with Paul McCartney and his new band, Wings, on their university tour. And Chris, I want to start out with a great quote. I've got a couple of good quotes to talk about this set of gigs here. But Paul says, "It was our version of the Magical Mystery Tour."
Oh, wow.
So we know
Wow.
what happened on that, which was a lot of mayhem, a lot of just getting on a bus and seeing what happens and going and playing places.
Yeah.
So that's what they did.
Part of the idea of doing this episode came from we both been reading the wonderful, fantastic book, The McCartney Legacy, Volume 1, 1969 to 1973, from Alan Kozinin and Adrian Sinclair. I
Yeah.
finally finished it too.
You're ahead of me.
And there's a chapter called Ricky and the Red Streaks, which it sort of details this tour as chapter 15. So, and there's some cool pictures of Paul wearing his heart-shaped shirt. But I wanted to read you a little thing about right before the first gig. A swarm of butterflies had gathered in Linda's stomach. Before the gig, it was blind terror, Paul said. All the sort of nerves she'd been suppressing all just finally came out, and she was just terrified, totally terrified. Sort of a weird, it's like this band, they've recorded now an album together. They've been playing for a little while together, but this is the first time they're actually going on the road with what seems to be very little rehearsal.
Yes, we'll get we'll get into the musical attributes a little bit later.
Yeah.
But that's exactly right. It was kind of Paul is only a couple of years out of the Beatles, and
Yeah.
he talks in a lot of later interviews, in a way, probably glorifying look through rose-colored glasses. Oh, I wanted to get a little band together like we were in the old days, just driving from club to club and give us 50 pence or 50 cents and we'll just play your lunchtime gig, and we've got the kids in the back and the dog and all that stuff. So it was kind of like that, actually. And they just a little bit of the mechanics here. They played 11 concerts
Hmm.
and went basically up and down the country here. Started in we're going to be talking about the Nottingham and Hull shows, but they
Yeah,
also played York,
yeah,
Newcastle upon Tyne, Lancaster, Leeds, Sheffield, Manchester, Birmingham, Swansea, and Oxford.
yeah.
February of 72.
And they go into detail in the book about some of them being real ragged and terrible, and the other ones, the whole gig seemed to get a good response from the crowd,
Yeah.
and so much so that they, which you can't even imagine Paul like replaying songs.
No, not
But they were
never.
like, they played "Give Ireland Back to the Irish" kind of early in the gig, so like, oh, let's play that one again as as part of the
Yeah.
encore. Partially because they didn't have any other material. They didn't like barely had some songs to play for these guys. They had recorded Wings Wildlife by then. Let's talk before we
Yeah.
get. Here's what the band was.
So the group was made up of Paul and Linda, of course, and then Denny Lane, Henry McCullough, and Denny Sywell.
Yeah,
And as you said, by this point they'd released, actually just released Wildlife, which was December 7th of 71. And then everything else, what's fascinating to me is everything else was either right at the same time or right afterwards, and or even a year away in some cases. So, on this gig, they're playing My Love, which wouldn't be released until
yeah,
March
yeah.
of
These people are
73.
hearing My Love for they're the first people to hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's kind of amazing.
Yeah. You had Red Rose Speedway wouldn't come out until April of 73. So
Yeah,
you're getting a sneak preview of a lot of tunes here. The most recent still hadn't come out yet was Give Ireland Back to the Irish, which you mentioned
yeah.
seemed to be a favorite of
That
theirs here.
hadn't been released yet, or was
No,
it
it was
just released?
February 25th. So
Wow.
they still hadn't released it yet by the time they're playing these gigs. So it was really, maybe that's part of the raggedness, is that some of these songs were either so new or they'd never played them before
Yeah,
in public.
yeah,
You play it different when you play in a studio than actually performing in front of people. So,
yeah,
but it's fascinating. So these two gigs, the Nottingham was the first one, and that was February 9th of
yeah.
72. And then Hull was 2 days later,
In
February.
between that, there was a York gig, which we don't have any. There's no known audio of that
No.
currently, but these two were somehow recorded.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure by who, but they've both been on this long-standing bootleg called Wings First Flight.
Yes.
Do you like the title of that bootleg? I do.
I do too, actually. It's pretty, because first flight's got a couple meanings there.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. It's actually yeah. You got first flying wings. You got the. I'll
Yeah.
have to explain it here. Everyone's so dumb. No, I won't say.
No.
No. But hey, maybe need a round, a first flight of drinks to get through some of these cuts too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we should say the audio quality is less than desirable.
Yeah, so when we're listening to this, we're taking that into
Yeah.
account. There is some raggedness to and poorness to the audio quality.
Yeah.
So it makes them sound rough. But that said, I still think they're playing very rough.
Very rough.
And I do understand Paul's idea here, which is we gotta learn by playing in front of people, but I don't want us to go hit the Wembley Stadium with this
No.
crew, because we are not ready for it. So how do we do it? Well, let's go to some colleges and play for some kids, and just who will just be like, oh, something's happening. Oh,
Yeah.
look, some people. Oh, it's Paul McCartney. Oh, wow, and not care that much that what they're getting is rough.
Well, especially because, like you said earlier, they were calling themselves Ricky and the Red Stripes. So you didn't want to say,
Yeah.
"Oh, Paul McCartney's here. Paul McCartney's here."
Yeah, and be flooded with
Yeah, it'd be
press and
crazy. So here's a quote from Paul from 2003, and he says, "This was with Wings on the students tour, doing those crazy, crappy little gigs was hairy. Nottingham, Lancaster, any of those gigs. Those were mad. We only had like 11 numbers, and we had to repeat Lucille to pad out the show by saying, we've had a request from Willie from the language course. He wants to hear Lucille again.
Yeah.
That's a good one. We just made it up. 50 pence on the door, no hotels booked, no gigs booked, nothing booked. Even the lowliest groups throughout history has had a, well, even the lowliest group throughout history has had a hotel booked for them, but we were just mad. So
yeah, it's pretty,
yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty crazy little tour. And yeah, and then these gigs aren't very long.
No. Well, that's right, because they had to keep playing Lucille and Give Ireland Back to the Irish, and now some of the songs on here we didn't know probably until the Wings Wildlife box set came out. Like, Thank You, Darling was something that we kind of liked it on the Wings Wildlife box set.
Yeah,
but they played it in both of these gigs. So
yeah, they played that one both of these gigs. They play, and some of these songs they'd never play again, other than this tour. Some they would. So I think, why don't we give the running order of the Nottingham gig and of the whole gig?
Yeah.
Just read it down, and then let's go back and just pick and choose some tracks to talk. Because like I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Lucille or Blue Moon of Kentucky or anything like that. But there's some very interesting tracks to talk about.
So the first one, so Nottingham, they start with Lucille. Then there's Blue Moon of Kentucky, Give Ireland Back to the Irish, You've Got to Help Me, Darlin', which is a Henry McCullough tune. Tune is loose here.
What's weird is on the thing it says Paul McCartney song.
Yeah.
But it's Henry McCullough singing it, so a little weird. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Thank You, Darlin', Wildlife, Bip Bop.
That's right.
Shuffle Blues by Henry McCullough. Also, The Mess, My Love, Lucille, and Long Tall Sally.
Yeah, and then for the set list I have for Hull, which, by the way, the set list I had didn't have Lucille for Nottingham. I don't.
Are you looking at the?
I'm looking at setlist.com.
I'm going off the bootleg.
Yeah, so I don't know. But Lucille was the first track off of Hull.
Yeah,
the Hull. Then Give Ireland Back to the Irish. Then Your Wee Tobacco Box. We'll talk a little bit about some of these silly things. Blue Moon of Kentucky, Seaside Woman from Susie and the Red Stripes,
right?
AKA Linda. Help Me, Darlin', Some People Never Know, The Mess, Bip Bop, Thank You, Darlin', Smile Away, My Love, The Grand Old Duke of York, Henry's Blues, Wildlife, and then the encore, once again,
a 3-song encore.
A 3-song encore, but of Give Ireland Back to the Irish, The Mess, and Lucille.
Yeah.
Real weird.
So
a couple things about like the looseness of the repeating songs. We talked about that. But there's also sort of a looseness of singing, like just impromptu singing Your Wee Tobacco Box or the Grand Old Duke of York. Those are just like obviously not planned. They just sort of singing some songs, you know. There's also just some like some of these freedoms, like Shuffle Blues and Henry Blues, where it's like, oh, let's just give Henry a chance to play some you know, guitar and we'll just create a little blues here for that.
Well, everybody who's ever played in a rock band knows the first rule of how to kill time is to play a blues. Somebody just calls out a key.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to play blues in A. Okay. And then that's how you do it. And then in this case, they did that and called it shuffle blues because it's got a shuffle feel on the drums.
Yeah.
Or it's just not, or Henry's Blues, just, all right, key of G, let's do a blues, slow blues. So not really a song, just a form.
Yeah. The other thing that's obvious from listening to this is they're not just that they're ragged, but I think they're and we'll think about this. This is 1972. So there probably are monitors and things like that in existence, but I'm not sure they are playing with those
No.
because they can't hear the mix of, and part of it might just be the badness of the recordings, but the mix of like sometimes Linda's so loud and just really sounds way too loud in her vocals or in her
Hmm.
keyboards,
And out of tune.
out of tune, and there's tuning problems, and there's just the drums don't, it's like, so I just think like there's some learning too of the, okay, maybe let's pot you down a little, let's make sure Henry's loud enough, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
And we've
So
talked on this podcast before about how Linda does make some great contributions to Wings later on, especially in Wings Over America. Or there's certain songs you can't help but think of Linda on there
yeah,
because she contributes. But yeah, it was pretty rough
yeah,
at this early stage here. I mean, she's screaming in
yeah.
points and like just shrill, just
Yeah.
way off kind of thing. And I don't know if that was the pot they were smoking or I shouldn't do that, but yeah, it's
Well,
just
and it's
not great.
and it's a performance thing too. I think of like we were saying here in the from the quote from the book. She's nervous as hell because she's
Yeah,
never ever been in front of anyone before doing doing this. So it's sort of like when you're in the studio and you can be like, "Oh, let's try that again,"
true,
and
true.
so because her on Wildlife is or particularly the vocals of her on Wildlife and on Ram are great.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but to go out there and be like, okay, now I'm gonna sing into this mic, and do I get here?
Yeah,
Or do I sing from back here? There's a little bit of that, and obviously. So
yeah,
I
clearly.
wanted to point out, pick and choose a couple tracks here to
Sure.
talk about a little further about. There's one here that's n- never been recorded, was never a real song, and was only performed on this tour, and that's "You've Gotta Help Me Darlin'," this blues with Henry on lead vocal. What do you think of this one?
I can barely remember. Is it slow? I don't even remember it.
Yeah, it's sort of
It's sort of a
a
slow,
slow, yeah, it's very forgettable,
very
very,
forgettable.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Henry singing on it. It's unclear if he wrote it or if Paul wrote it,
Yeah.
based on information we have. And then they would not follow up on that one. They're like,
No.
yeah, that's just yeah, let's not do that one again.
Yeah, that was just a time filler or some impromptu kind of
Yep.
tune.
Um,
Uh,
One of
and
the more lively ones, though, that was played on both and twice on the one, is "Give Ireland Back to the Irish." So what's your
yeah.
take on that?
Well, the first time we ever talked about that song, I think, was on the McCartney singles set, because we we had an instrumental version that we were not too fond of. We didn't like the instrumental.
Yeah. Oh
Remember, it
yeah.
flipped. Yeah, that was, yeah, with flutes. It was really irritating.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think we talked about the song itself was actually kind of funky in a weird way,
Yeah.
and they play it with a lot of energy. To me, it's got a lot of, with some of these duds like Bip Bop or Wildlife's real slow, My Love ballad.
Yeah.
It's good to have kind of a upbeat song. And they played it with a lot of vigor, which probably was because it had just been recorded and was going to be released as a single.
Yeah. This seems like we know this one.
Yeah. Yeah. We know.
Like some of the other ones, it feels like, we're not sure what to do on this. And
Hmm.
we'll get into the mess, which I want to talk
Yeah.
about a lot. This one, it seemed tight. It seemed like
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
lively. So
Yep.
it's like, obviously when they were like, what do we play again? Oh, that one's easy, because very like, and they are trying to promote the single, which is about to drop. Or I had thought that the single had already dropped, but maybe I was a little,
Yeah.
I don't have the dates like you have.
It was recorded actually right around this time, but then was released, 2/25/72.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that one they were committed, I think, to playing that one pretty well, and the vocals sound good, and it's pretty good. Just a quick mention of something I noticed about Blue Moon of Kentucky. That's an old cover song, a bluegrass song.
Yep.
It was a standout also on the Unplugged,
Oh yeah.
that Paul would play many years later. So 20 years later. So he was quite fond of that song, and it's just interesting that that was one of the ones chosen for that unplugged version too.
Yeah. We talked about My Love, everybody getting a first listen to that. It's decent.
Yeah.
And I kind of like there's something on this version that's never on any of the thing, like, oh my love,
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
little of that from Linda in the background. One of the times that Linda kind of shines in this show. So it's everywhere with my love, my love.
My love. Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of a nice little version of it,
Yeah.
And the Henry solo, obviously, until they did the recording, it was just sort of
All over the
all
place.
over the place. So
Yeah.
the few times here, it's like obviously he's just making it up as he goes along.
Yeah.
So not so sure about that one, but it was nice that it's included here. Thank You Darling here only played
Yeah.
a few times live, but boy, this is one of those times the background vocals from Linda was way off.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah.
It hurt. This is something kind of curious about these set lists too. I wonder if you thought the same thing, but it was strange that there's only one song from Ram, and it's Smile Away, which is probably the easiest one to play because it's bluesy.
Yeah.
But there's no other songs from Ram that,
Well, I think they
especially,
were trying to be like, oh, that's not really.
I guess that's
it's
Paul's
sort of like
solo.
a cover version of Paul.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point. Whereas Smile Away, it was kind of a jam song.
When Bip Bop is a sort Bip Bop and Smile Away are both like super duper duper simple songs. So I think that those were choices on this tour because they were easy to get through.
True.
And Bip Bop's not a great song. We both disliked it, and I disliked hearing it here as well. But Smile Away is a better song. Silly song still, but a peppy song, and it had a good section for a little solo there too. So I thought, having Smile Away on that second. I don't think it's played in the first one, but the second one was pretty good. Another big one that they played, and I think they did a good job with, Wildlife.
Yeah.
Now, Wildlife's not your favorite song by any means. But
you mean you don't like the aminals in the zoo?
Aminals in the zoo. But Linda's kind of holding her own on keys here.
Yeah.
Mostly in tune. And I like there's like a ooh, sort of section that's not in the regular song, I don't think.
No.
That was kind of interesting and pretty good. So Wildlife, I like those.
Well, that's a good point. So this group had also just played what Wildlife was released in December, so that was only a couple months earlier. So they could commit to playing Wildlife a little better, and Some People Never Know, which I actually that's a sweet song, and I do like that one. So
I love
that was
this
kind
song.
of cool to hear. Yeah.
It's a little out of tuning, herky jerky tuning problems, and there's like a little skip in it, but a performance skip. It's almost like the record skip, but the ending's kind of rough on that one. But I just to hear it, because it was never played again live, and I think it's like a quality good song.
Yes,
that I like. I think it's a very underrated song. So it was nice to hear that.
Yeah. Now, Chris, I know you were very excited about one particular song that you.
Shuffle Blues. Oh yeah. No, Shuffle. I did want to mention Shuffle quickly. Shuffle Blues. It sounds exactly like Susie Parker without the.
It does,
doesn't it? Come on, Susie Parker. I was thinking Susie Parker with it. So, but
well, I know you were excited to talk about a song that they clearly love to play because it is featured twice at Hull and once at Nottingham, and it's very long.
Oh my God.
A mess.
It is a mess too. It is just, I mean, if you've heard the mess from the tour that they end up doing later, where the bands got it together,
Yeah.
and they do that European tour, Wings Over Europe, which
Yep.
we all own. No, nobody can
Oh
own it
no, we
because it was
can't.
sold out in 5 minutes, and so nobody has that on track. You have to get that fall off a truck.
Yeah.
Um, it's a little tighter, that version, and I think it's edited, that version,
Yeah.
because this they play it. It's at least 6 minutes long every time they play it,
Yeah. Just
and
rambling.
way too long. And there's an additional. So in the middle, that section where it's like, "Oh, I want you,
Yeah.
and I need you."
Do do do
There's
do
this
do.
Linda call and response, and I can't even make out what she's saying, but it's like just like really awful.
Yeah.
So
Really bad.
so that part's terrible. Really sloppy parts on this. It's like they're trying to get into the section for Henry Solo, and it's like blah, 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 but it's sort of like they don't even know how to do the song yet, quite.
No. This
And
is like the worst kind of ragged, rough garage band sound.
yeah, the keys sound loud. The "Oh
Yeah.
Sweet Darlings" are out of tune, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, and it's like I said, it's way too long. They're repeating sections that would eventually be trimmed out of the song.
We might
So
even call it a hot mess.
yeah. So, and I felt the same way about both. I listened to both of them,
Hmm.
all three of them on these
Yeah.
recordings, and they're not. I mean, the song is good. This song, they never quite got it right enough to have it on. I mean, it was intended to be on the longer version of Red Rose Speedway. On if you have Red Rose Revisited on vinyl, like
Yeah.
I eventually bought,
Yep.
it's on there, but it's that live version from Wings Over Europe,
Yeah. From The
um,
Hague.
from The Hague. So
Yeah.
they got it. They eventually would get it pretty good live,
Hmm.
but do it recording it. I think in the book they say like their attempts to record it, they just couldn't
Yeah.
kind of capture the live vibe of it, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, and then one other track I guess we should mention is the Seaside Woman is in there too.
oh yeah.
Have a Linda feature. And there's a lot of funny quotes that about this tour from Linda, basically saying, yeah, I was nervous. I didn't really know what I was doing. Paul went on and on about this, saying he was dying to get back to performing, but wanted me to join in. Can you imagine, he said, standing on the stage, the curtain going up, the audience all waiting. He made it sound so glamorous that I agreed to have a go. People muttered that I wasn't a proper musician, but then I'd be told I wasn't a proper photographer either from Paul.
uh,
Well,
yeah. I
it's hard to,
poor Linda.
I know it's hard to
It's just
evaluate this.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Just fish out of water.
yeah. She just like I don't want to say forced into being a musician when she wouldn't have been had her life just taken the normal course.
Yeah.
But she would have some great contributions to Wings.
Yeah.
Definitely vocally. I think background vocal wise, having a rock group with a female background vocalist who was part of the group, it was almost like a new thing in some ways, because if you think of all the other rock bands of the 70s, your Zeppelins, yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's like there's a lot of lack of female in
Hmm.
there. So I love Linda. I think she does a great job with backup vocals throughout Wings. She's part of the sound,
Oh yeah.
so I don't want to just be bashing on Linda. It's just really tough for her to go take the stage scared shitless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not very good at keyboards. The other two, not It seemed like Denny Lane was pretty cool with her, but the other two
Oh
guys
yeah.
would have some issues with her even being in the band. Like,
Yeah,
what?
sort of.
We're professional musicians. What is this? You know.
Right.
So parts of the many reasons as you read the book of why the both guys would leave the group around the same time and right before they got really good had
Yeah,
a huge
yeah.
success. So yeah, so it's interesting to hear this first flight, because it
Right.
does it
Right.
does feel like a rough takeoff, but it's like a first flight, but it's like raining, so
I
you're
know.
gonna get a lot of turbulence.
Exactly, exactly. But as you know, looking back at history, I think we can say this was an important watershed event for
Yeah,
Paul to get out on the road again and kind
yeah,
of overcome those fears that Cozen and Sinclair talk a lot about in the book. How right after the Beatles, Paul was feeling very down and
yeah,
doubting himself, and so this is a way to kind of start from the bottom and build himself back up.
yeah. The one thing we didn't mention is in the first show, the long tall Sally is the encore, and it feels like he's playing a Beatles. I mean, because
Yeah,
obviously the Beatles did long tall Sally, so it feels like he's playing finally a Beatles song, and you can hear the crowd sort of come to life,
yeah,
like,
they
oh
perk
wow,
up.
long tall Sally,
Yeah,
So it's sort of like the energy in the room going up so high. I feel like maybe that's why he didn't play it the third time,
oh
because
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
I don't want the crutch of
Mm.
I don't the Beatles stuff. Eventually, they'd get some Beatles in there. They get some, Wings would get some, got to get you into my life, and some
Yeah,
tracks like that into their
Blackbird and stuff like
yeah
that.
into their
Yeah.
repertoire. But a good idea not to. I think somebody even shouts, play Get Back or
Yeah,
something.
you do hear somebody clamoring for a Beatle tune. So,
Yeah. So, but
yeah.
a good
Well,
idea not to play a Beatle tune when you're out there trying to learn, trying to get to be. This is part of the process too. It's like, yeah, we're ragging on their rough and this,
yeah.
but really, it's good that they did it, and they got their wings under them, so that they,
Yeah,
eventually would do that European tour, which by all accounts was better than this.
definitely,
Maybe
definitely.
there's some ups and downs of that too in the book, but
Well, I just thought of this now, but what else happened the same year with John? Well, he played the New York live in New York City concerts with Elephant's Memory,
yeah.
72 in the summer. And there were some pretty ragged moments there too. He
Mhm.
did play Come Together, but he also
Yep.
stayed away from Beatle tunes,
Yeah.
and it was pretty ragged. But I think the difference there was he was willing to play some of his hits and some of his solo stuff, and they were clearly a backing band where Paul and was trying to make Wings be a unit without him necessarily in
Yeah.
front.
Not even falling back on your maybe I'm amazed
Yeah,
or
exactly,
any of
exactly.
that
Or
yet. They'd
right,
eventually be like,
eventually.
okay, let's get maybe I'm obviously the Wings over America once they tour
Oh
America.
yeah, of course.
But then maybe I'm amazed is a staple of those shows. Yeah, so a good glimpse into. I mean, I wonder with all the demixing
Oh yeah.
if we're gonna. I think no. I think under no circumstances does he
Uh-uh.
want a wide release of these early ragged, cruddy kind of
No
sounding shows,
way.
even if they could demix them and clean them up and put them through
Yeah,
all kinds of technology to get them to sound good. I think this would not be the choice of what to what
no
to go
way.
back and save, because they are rough, and it doesn't make none of them sound all that great. And My Love is, he's playing My Love on the keyboards and is a little off on in
Yeah.
some parts. So,
Yeah, they had a ways to go yet. So,
yeah.
but it's fascinating like early Beatles, we don't say that the Star Club or the Hamburg stuff is their you know, the best they would ever be. But
Yeah.
it's a glimpse of what's to come, and
Yeah.
you can tell that there's some material there that will eventually be worked into better things.
Yeah.
So
So you read this book and it sounds like it's almost like a tragedy. The band that they had together was pretty good and it was getting really good, but the frustrations, and some frustrations being because Paul was having money problems with Apple, he's not really paying these guys what they're worth for the work they're putting in. They're kind of giving up parts of their other career. They're thinking I could be making more money doing studio work than this. And
yeah,
they're not getting paid, so they get frustrated. So eventually it would all fall apart. But this is a nice little glimpse at the beginning of it taking off, of them getting pretty good eventually. And they had even rehearsed for what would become Band on the Run, pretty much a full look at the album, and then they quit.
yeah,
And
exactly.
it's just Denny Lane and the two of them.
Hmm.
When you get to Band on the Run, that's all it is. So
It is kind of a tragedy in
yeah,
some way.
because if they had gotten it felt at least felt like treasured and like they got to contribute a little more. Is it possible Band on the Run's even better
Yeah, yeah,
with these guys playing on it? Really good, because they're both good musicians. I think
yeah.
yeah, they both clearly show in Place of My Love
Eventually, yeah, they would.
that they're really pretty good musicians,
Yeah, definitely.
and Denny had been a session musician and played a lot, and
Yeah,
you know,
Henry McCullough played with Joe Cocker and
yeah,
done a lot of good stuff, but
yeah.
just
So
didn't. Maybe this just wasn't the right time for
yeah,
this group to gel.
and there's other issues at play too, with the liquor getting
Well,
involved,
that yeah, there's
some things like that.
substances are not helpful. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
it's a little bit of a sad story of those two guys at least. But man, this book's so good.
I know.
Y'all should read it. And you get a real good glimpse of these shows too, in the ragtagginess of just showing up and not having a place to stay, and
Right.
can we play there? I think I forget where, but they show up and they're like, can we play? And it's like, no, we've got this other thing going on.
Can you imagine? I mean,
Yeah. No thanks, Paul McCartney.
yeah, no thanks. We don't want you. I know. Thanks for listening to our look through a classic Beatles gig with First Flight. I believe a lot of this is on YouTube, so I'll post some links that if anyone wants to go check out some of these tunes. As I say, in doses. It's kind of a rough oral experience, but
Yeah,
inform.
it's the only place you're gonna get like Some People Never
Yeah,
Know, and some of
Smile
these.
Away and some of these
Yeah,
tunes. So for
so
that, it's pretty cool to have it.